Whoa! Ugh. I have the biggest wedgie right now and I have no idea how to get rid of it. Everything I do seems to make it worse. What's up guys, Sherman here, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about schooling. And I'm in here at the park and I thought it would be too late because you can hear kids in the background. So I think it's quite appropriate. I think they're doing this like tennis thing where there's like a school around the corner. But anyway, I just wanted to say that after going through the whole public school system, I basically decided never, ever, ever to send my kid to school. And there's multiple reasons for that. My school experience wasn't very good. Not because of like bullying or anything else, but because the school system really wasn't designed for my taste and for my interests. You see, I was always the one that was staring out the window. I spent half of my time just basically laughing and not really caring about what was going on. And I had a hard time absorbing knowledge. Now, this was before my whole autism diagnosis and before the symptoms got really bad. I can understand why there are some people who are out there saying that, oh, a lot of these kids who can't focus and stuff like that, they don't have autism, they're just not interested. And there was definitely something towards that as well, because I found that I was just so uninterested with what was going on that I just wanted to focus on anything but what was being taught. And I think school is really not designed to, it's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Some people, they go to school and they do really well, like that girl who I'll always remember when we were getting our test results. She was crying because she got 1B instead of like all A's and we all hated her. It was just like, what the hell? I'm sitting there looking at more D's than a bloody strip club and it's like, what the hell? Well, my throat still hasn't recovered. Yeah, so that kind of pissed me off. But yeah, so basically the whole school system I think is really designed to enslave, I think. Whether or not it's deliberately or not, I'm not sure, but the way the school system is designed is that it's meant to teach kids how to be obedient. It's meant to teach them to forget about their natural urges and desires. It's about teaching them how to absorb and regurgitate knowledge. Now, in China, some people may know that education is mandatory, and I think it's mandatory in other places, but I can't actually remember. But in school, in China, it's very, if you go there, and people that have lived there basically say about how there isn't really that much innovation in China. Everything is just copying what someone else has done and then running them out of the market, or, you know, pretending like, you know, it's their invention, but actually it's something that they stole from someone else. And many people who visit China and who live there, especially foreigners, basically point out how a lot of China is, there's no innovation. They don't have any imagination. It's always follow the herd. And I think making the school system mandatory, if it wasn't mandatory, I don't think that would be the case, because school, all it teaches you is how to be an obedient slave. I mean, slave has to go there at this time. When they ring the bell, that means you have to get up and go, and if you don't, then there's threat of punishment. It's just teaching people how to be slaves, in my opinion. Now, there are some people who did enjoy their school experience, who come out here very successful from going to school. But from my experience, I realized that if I had quit school after I'd finished my GCSEs and just, you know, started up, you know, doing something creative, by now I'd be quite successful. Simply because I don't think I would have wasted so much of my time learning about subjects that were utterly irrelevant. Like, no one cares about what river dikes mean and why you shouldn't laugh at it. You know, oh look, was America a melting pot of diversity and, you know, in Martin Luther King's day, all this other nonsense. It's like, it's not interesting. And I am so sick and tired about learning about Hitler as well. That was something that kind of pissed me off. Everyone was talking about Hitler, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. You know, are you going to teach us something about, I don't know, British history aside from the war? Because a lot of stuff has happened. Yet I seem to spend 2 years of my time in history studying about America and Nazi Germany. It's like, all right, I get it. But anyway, I think a lot of it is absolutely unnecessary. I've forgotten, and I'm sure many people can relate to this, 99% of all the stuff that I learned in school, well, more like 95. The only thing that I think, if public school were to be mandatory, which luckily in the UK it isn't, but I think that the school system should be optional up to a point after when they've learned, you know, I'd say about GCSE level, which if you're not familiar with that, it's about when you're about 16, 17, I think. So, you know, you're learning about algebra, you're learning about, you know, all sorts of complex sentences, you're doing all these like geographical studies and stuff like that, and that's about at the point whereby it becomes interesting, but it's not necessarily mandatory. Because how many of you have had to learn about algebra and have never used it? I have not seen or solved an algebra equation in about 5 or 6 years. And I honestly, if I could go back in time, I'd have wrenched myself out of the school and be like, all these signs and symbols, you'll never use them again. Stop wasting your time. Go run around and outside in the park. At least you get some exercise, something actually beneficial. But yeah, no, school was just, I spent the whole time thinking, why the hell am I here? Why the hell am I here? You know, it's absolutely, you know, just, it's unnecessary. It's totally unnecessary. And it has vast-ranging psychological effects as well, because what you find is that school, there's a lot of people who go to school who are subjected to a lot of not very nice treatment. Either they were bullied, or they were just abused in some way. And I think school for some people is generally traumatizing. And it's funny because in primary school it isn't that bad, which is why whenever some people say that they're going to become a teacher, I'm like, where is it? And then they say secondary school. I'm like, oh, you are so screwed. I made so many teachers, not me personally, but my class would make so many teachers run out and cry. And I wasn't exactly very constructive either. I actually got a laptop because of my learning difficulties. And I connected to the internet, and throughout all of my English lessons I was playing Team Fortress 2 the whole time. And once accidentally I unmuted the mic, and if you're not familiar with the game, there's these classes and they shoot each other. And you got like voice commands, so I accidentally unmuted and it was on full volume. And all you could hear, it was all quiet, all you heard was, "Medic!" It's just like, oh shit, just slammed it down. He's like, "What are you doing?" "Oh, sorry, I was just browsing the internet." Yeah, just totally playing Team Fortress 2 the whole time. My point was that in primary school, you don't really see that sort of like group forming that you do see in secondary school. Because in secondary school, around about when they're like 14, 15, 16, that's when kids tend to start to tribalize. And you get the cool kids, you get the rude boys, you get the this, that, you get the nerds and stuff like that. And it's not always healthy, because what you find is that people tend to fit into groups that are very, very unhealthy. Like, I'm not very proud for what a lot of black people have been doing. And what I'm really talking about is, I work in retail, and it's unfortunate to say that the vast majority of thieves are black. And this, I think, starts in school. Because I remember walking into one of my first lessons in secondary school, and the line, like, everyone was sort of sitting in their own groups, and on the left side it was predominantly rude boys, rude boys, people that wear their jeans low and stuff like that. And unfortunately, almost every single one of them apart from one was black, and I think the one who wasn't black was like half black. And the other side was filled with nerds, like two black guys. Now, I had no biases back then. I didn't really care about where I sat, but I remember I looked at the guys on the left, the rude boys, and looked at the guys on the right, and gals obviously, and all the nerds and the other outcasts and stuff, and I sat with the nerds. And 2 years later, almost every single person on the left side was kicked out of school. It was me and two other guys in my year who actually stayed in and were actually marginally successful. And they were all nerds, they were not rude boys. Now, this is because of that group forming mentality that happens in school. If your kid goes to school and they hang out with the wrong people, all of a sudden they bunk, which means they skip school, they hang out with the wrong crowd, they start doing drugs, and they start, getting up to all sorts of stupid shit. And I find that if not for public schooling, this wouldn't really be that much of an issue. Now, that's a very, very niche issue. So the other issue is, what is the alternative? Because there's loads of people who are talking about homeschooling. I think I'm going to homeschool my kid. I want to be a stay-at-home dad. I want to be able to work wherever I want. I want to be able to spend time with my child, because I know, and I'm sure other people know, just how life-changing it can be when you don't have parents that are around for you. And also when you're broken up from your family to spend time with people who you don't like, doing stuff you don't like for long periods of time, you don't form a bond with your parents. Like, I don't have any sort of bond with my parents because I spent all my time in education, and when it wasn't, they were too busy at work. But I want to be a stay-at-home dad, and there's loads of people who say, "Oh, you can't homeschool," and the biggest complaint is, what about community? Because the one good thing about school is that it socializes the kids. It teaches them how to be social, it teaches them how to be in an environment, it teaches them how to relate to their peers. Now, I would argue that primary school is the best time for that to do, whereas secondary school, because of the whole clique forming and stuff like that, it's really a double-edged sword. So homeschooling can actually be pretty good, because there are loads of networks out there whereby you basically meet up with other parents who are also homeschooling, and you gather together in one group, and all the kids go to each parent's house, and so that way they actually form their own. That way they actually form. Over a fight. That way. Just waiting for them to shut up. There we go. Yeah. So naturally, what that does is that when they actually have some sort of a community, they can get socialized, where they don't have to worry about falling in with the wrong crowd or learning stuff that they don't want to learn. Because I think that the best way to teach a kid is to just give them all sorts of stuff for them to play with. Teach them the basics: reading, writing, arithmetic, and maths, and maths and basics and science of that, and then be like, okay, so what do you want to do? And what you find is that the kid will naturally gravitate to the stuff that it wants to do, and then you can sort of feed into that side bits like the occasional maths lesson and stuff like that, but then you allow them to do what they want. So kids sometimes, you notice that the kid likes to play piano. Okay, let him play pianos for as long as he wants. Teach him how to study music. Or you find that your kid likes to build stuff. Okay, let's teach him, let's teach him science, so a bit of engineering and stuff like that. Not like hardcore engineering. Get him loads of like Roblox or whatever the hell it was, and just let them go to town. Because what you find is that when they can really work on something passionate, that is the best way for them to really grow up and really to be able to turn that into a career, because they were passionate about it from day one. And they had all sorts of support to allow them to get, to allow them to get to that point. But schooling doesn't offer them the chance. Kids spend 99% of the time learning stuff that they do not want to learn, and they can't because of threat of punishment. So then they learn that your thoughts and your ideas and your desires are meaningless, because you have to be here at this time, otherwise you'll be punished, you'll be ostracized, you'll be mocked, you'll be threatened with all the stuff. And so they learn how to forego their own needs and forego their own desires and to live in this structured box, which is absolutely perfect if you want to be a dictator and you want to control society. I'm just going to say that right now. I think school system is absolutely perfect for raising people to be obedient slaves. And you hear loads of counter propaganda on the radio, which basically says that homeschooling is bad. I remember on the BBC there was this play that was going on, and this mother was homeschooling this kid. And I'll always remember this because I came in and there was this kid basically talking these really sad tones about how I don't like homeschooling, I'd rather be someone else. And I remember this because the mother, I could just hear the guilt bleeding from her, like, oh, I'm sorry, would you prefer to be sent to school? And the kid just goes, yes, I would very much prefer to be sent to school. And she's like, oh my God, I'm such a shit parent. It's all this other nonsense. And it's like, no, homeschooling's not always that sort of one-to-one stuff, It's meant to be in a group, that's the way you do it. But anyway, I'm never sending my kid to public school or private school, to just mandatory education. I may send them not throughout the nursery age, but maybe for like a year or two, just to like primary school for a bit. But then after that, they're back, because breaking up that parent bond and not allowing the child to actually bond towards the parent can potentially mess them up for life, and it's a total waste of time. Anyway, that's what I'm going to say for today. Hopefully it was a coherent rant, and I'll see you all later. Over and out.